Hello, good evening. Welcome to this week's One Image My Edit. And tonight I'm going to be showing you how you can color grade your images using gradient maps in Adobe Photoshop 2020. So I'm using the latest version. This is available in the other versions or older versions if you're still using them. But I actually come across this many years ago by mistake and was playing around with it. And ever since then, I have been using this a lot to color grade images. So it's a real great way to be able to add mood to your pictures and to get, I suppose, a cinematic look, you could say, but generally just to actually add a little bit more drama to your pictures. Now, color is the most important thing. Well, it's not the most important thing. It's up there with it's the top three things, you know, with your images. So you've got the light, the quality, direction, a quantity of light. You've got the midtones, the blacks and the grays, and then you've got colors. And colors play a massive role in images, and it can really help bring your work to life. So if you've got any questions about tonight's tutorial, then whack them in the comments. I can see people here who are joining at the minute, and I am just trying to bring up the comments just so I can make sure you're all here, which you are. Great, cool. So before we get cracking, I have the next 5-step blueprint to photography challenge, which starts on the 18th of this month. So it's next Monday it starts. If you've not signed up to that, head over to DSLRGuruChallenge.com and you'll be able to sign up there. It's 5 days with me. Get off auto. It's brilliant. We've got nearly 350 people in that group already. So come over and join us on that. It'll be really good. And if you want to get a message every time that I go live, just follow this link here and type follow, and you will get a text message when I'm live if you're UK based. So I'm going to crack on with tonight's tuition then. So the first thing we're going to do is come to our layers panel. Now, if you can't see this layers panel, just go to window and then go to layers, or we can press F7. You can see there, that's the short key for it. And then down here, there's a little circle. Okay, we're going to click on that. And that is going to bring up these adjustments, and we're going to select gradient map. So that's one way you can do it. Another is to go to layer, okay, and then new adjustment layer, and then select gradient map there. So it's the same, okay, it's the same way of doing it. So I'm just going to do it that way for you guys, and we're just going to say okay. So that's just naming the gradient map. Now when this comes up, yours will probably come up a little bit different to mine. If you click on the arrow here, you can see we've got these folders, and these contain different colors and things like that, which I'll get to in a bit. But the actual gradient map here, we have dither, okay, which actually, if you click that, that actually adds noise in certain parts of the image. So if you've got banding and things like that, that actually helps. And then we've got reverse, where it will actually flip over the gradient map. So if we double click on that, we can see this is the gradient map, and it does act like a levels adjustment. So if you've ever used levels, where you've got down here, you've got the darks, and you've got the whites, and in the middle, you've got the grays. Now, if I come up to the basics panel, yours is probably by default set to that, okay, black to white. And you can see there, we've got black, and then it goes up into gray, and then eventually into white. So what this enables us to do is to basically choose whatever we want, whatever colors we want, we can basically put within this. So let me find, I'm just going to choose a random one. Let's find, let's just go to greens. Okay, so if I click on greens, we can see we've got a big list here. Now, when it comes to colors, studying the color wheel, color chart, and actual colors is a really good idea. I touch on color theory. I've done a little bit on that before. It's really worth knowing colors because you want to be using colors that are complementary with each other. So let's just click on on this, say number 29, green 29. Okay, so what I can do is if I click there, I've just created another point, and if I go to color, I can click on that and I can change that color. So let's just make it say a little bit darker, press OK. So what's happening now, it's going from that blue that was already there to a darker blue, and it's going lighter as it comes up more into a turquoise here. But let's add, say here, we can go to color. Let's add maybe, say, a yellow if we wanted to. And let's bring that right out. So it's just a hint of yellow. And that you can see is in the highlights area because this is the bright end here. Okay. And if we look at that and just say, okay, obviously that doesn't look right. Remember, we can reverse it, okay, if we want to, but that's not going to work for this image. But if we just move this out of the way and then come up to here where our layers are and go to the opacity, if we start bringing this down, this is when the magic happens. So if we bring this down to say 30%, we get quite a nice effect. Usually these gradient maps work between 10 and 30% as a general rule. So if you look at this image here, bring it up to say 30%, we can see there what's actually happening. So we've added this gradient map. So the blues are in the shadows, and then we can see that blue that gets lighter is starting to come into the midtones, which are the grays here, and then we've got this kind of yellow and then turquoise in the highlights, which has been added. So if I click on the eye, you can see that was the original, and that's what we've just done. And you can see that cinematic effect that you get. So let me just make that a little bit bigger so you can see that before and after a little bit easier. So you can see there's before and there's after. And what's really great is that it automatically gives you this here. Okay, so what we've got here is the ability to, it's a layer mask, so to actually take the effect away if we want. So for instance, if we wanted to take that color grading away from the motorbike, we can. So we'll click on the brush tool and then we'll come down to here and we'll click on these little squares, make sure it's black, okay, because this is white, so it needs to be black. And then what we can do is just make the brush bigger by using the brackets keys on the keyboard, and we can start painting away. And you can see what's happening is I'm actually starting to bring back the color of that bike, so the original color. So what that means is that we've color graded everything else except for the bike. And this might be something you might want to do, especially if it's things like portraits and things like that. You may not want to affect skin tones. It's just showing you that you've got a lot of control over how you grade your images, you color grade your images. So let me just do this quickly so you can get an idea. Now, I actually quite like it with the color grade over it. So all I'm doing is just brushing that out, and I'm doing a really terrible job of that because I'm just doing it really quick for you guys to see. So something along the lines of that, and not forget the stand and the back wheel. So there you go. You can see there that now is the bike as it was. So if we click on the eye, we can see the background is just affected, not the bike. And this is something that advertisers, advertising photographers do. This is what gives their images that wow factor. Okay, it's gradient maps. It's a massive part of photography, probably a lot more than what you realize. This is almost a little bit of a hidden trick that a lot of photographers don't want you to know, because it's what makes their images look so slick. And it really gives that kind of, advertising kind of look. So that would be one particular edit. And you can see here the shape of the motorbike at the top is black, and that's where I've painted through. So we've painted through to the original picture. So let me get rid of that one. So I'm just pressing delete, back to the original. And let's do a different edit. So come down to here. I'm going to go down to here this time. Click on gradient map. It's going to come up, and it comes up with this by default. So let's try, if you look down here, there's loads. There's pastels, they're quite cool. There's neutrals, we've got basics, cloud. You can see there's absolutely loads. There's greens, which are quite, some of them are quite cool. Sorry, they're grays. These are really, really good for black and white editing. Obviously, if we look at that, that looks like a negative, doesn't it? So all we need to do is just reverse that, and that would then give you an image that would look normal, so to speak. So we just drop the opacity down. Remember, between 10 and 30% is usually optimum. With this, because it's a gray, we may want to go a little bit higher, so we could create a little bit more of a moody picture, so to speak, or a moody image. Someone saying, I missed the beginning. Is this PS? Yes, this is Photoshop. Yes, it is. Okay, so let's get rid of that edit there, and let's do another one. So let's just try, I'm going to try something a little bit more daring now. So let's try maybe these pastels here. So let's click on that. So I'm just going to reverse that. You can always tell when it needs reversing because it looks like a negative. Okay, so let's reverse that. And we can see we've got this lovely kind of sort of blue purple tone. It goes off into a pink, and that's really cool. Let's click on that, and let's click here. Let's add something else. Let's add, say, a yellow. Okay, and again, this is where, sorry, I'm going to go for more of a green. And this is where looking at color tones and color theory really helps, because you can use complementary colors. So let's click on there, and let's add, I'm just going crazy with this. Let's add a more of a blue. I quite like blue in the highlight areas there. That looks pretty cool. And of course, we can also move this as well. So we can move these sliders, and you can see what happens is that we actually end up stretching that particular shade and blending it more. So you can see here, so you say, well, the highlights, we actually want the highlights to have more of this shade in. The midtones, we want them to be more kind of blue. And let's bring this down. The greens there in the shadows, you can see the shadows there and here. Okay, so let's say okay to that and just see what we get. So then once we've done that, we just come back up to here. Okay, back up to the gradient map here with the layer mask, click on the opacity and just start dropping that, and you'll see the effect start coming in. So if we look there, that's quite an interesting edit, isn't it? Okay, so that's, I mean, that's just me playing around and being really wacky with the edit, but it's quite interesting and it gives you that cinematic look. Okay, so there are lots and lots for you to play around with, to edit, to really kind of get creative with. And this is a really, really good trick to color grade your images. Okay, so again, looking at this color map here, it's so a gradient map, so let's just bring that down a little bit there. That's quite nice. And also, when we're using the brush, if we're clicking on the layer mask there, we can also come up to here, bring the opacity down and the flow down, and then up here where the brush is, bring that hardness down to 0. Now what we're going to do is actually get a softer effect. So if I want to take that effect away, I can brush, but it's not going to be so severe. It's not going to just poke through to the image that was behind. I'm going to have to go over it several times. But also what this does is allow for a little bit more better control, because it's a softer brush and the flow of paint that's coming out is not as severe. So it still give you the effect, but it will just help blend things a lot easier. So whenever you're doing stuff like this, it's always advisable to use a soft brush. Sometimes you'll need a hard brush. If you've got a face or something, you may want to use a hard brush, but something like this, using a soft brush means that we're not going to then spill onto the background. It's going to be a lot easier to be able to select things like that tubing there, or this area here, because if I go over to the background, I'm going to have to paint that background more than once for the effect to work. So I can just gradually bring this in. So I'm painting over this more than once. Okay, and that's bringing it through. You may want to, if I go back a few steps, I may want to actually keep some of the tone there. So I've got the green there in the shadow. So the control is yours. It really, really is. So that looks really, really nice. We can then finish off with, if we come up and just do a levels adjustment, then we can just finish that off by maybe bringing the shadows in. or maybe with the gray tones there, we can lighten them a little bit, and that will give us a really nice effect. So we can see the difference that makes. It's only little, but it's really powerful. Add a little bit of contrast, and you can see that's the original and that's the edit. Now, for something like this, personally, I think the best way is, for me anyway, my favorite gradient maps are the blues, because they give a real strong cinematic look, and that's just a personal preference. That's what I like. I like images that look cinematic. So let's just go with something like that. And again, you can add whatever you want to that gradient map. You can double click back on it and add whatever you want. I clicked on the layer mask there. It's this one here. You can obviously add different shades of blue, but this is my favorite. So clicking on that gradient map, dropping that opacity down, and just having, this one's a little bit higher at 40%. There we go. That's really nice. I like that kind of style, and that's just personal preference. So I hope that's helped. It's quite a simple thing to do. It's literally just coming down here, clicking on that gradient map, and then selecting on this arrow, and you'll see you've got all these different options here. If you click on this little icon here, you can have small thumbnail, large thumbnail, so you can make them bigger, easier to see. You can have it just as text, and you can also import gradients as well, so you can download these and get different types. So you can play around with these to your heart's content, and you can make your own as well. You can add this one here. So once you've made your own, you can click on that, and then you can save it. But have a play around with these, and especially as well, if you want to do some black and white stuff as well, this is really good, because it will give you some really nice solid black and whites that are really punchy. Like, this here is kind of like halfway in between. If you come up to the very top where it's got basics, you'll see there that this one goes from black to white, so that is a really strong black and white edit. If I get rid of the one that was below, which was a color one, so to that one, sorry, click on that there we go. We can see that gradient map there working, and it looks really cool. It looks really cool. And like I said, you can change this. Now you can also play around with the blend mode as well if you want to. I don't, because it's not needed really. This won't really affect the image in a positive way. It will kind of make it look a little bit odd. So just play with the opacity. Okay, that's the best rule of thumb. So I hope you enjoyed that, and that will really help you get some really strong cinematic style colors to your images, and it's what's going to make things pop and look really cool, like we did here. I'm just going back through the history of when I painted over the bike, just to get rid of that green tinge on it, and it just shows you, there we go. So it just shows you that difference. It just really makes it come alive, doesn't it? So again, this is personal preference from a green perspective, but looking at colors, looking at color charts and color theory is really important, and it's something that I would highly recommend you all look at. So when you are adding these gradient maps, when you are adding them, you know what colors to have where. So play around with them, see what you get. That will really help your images. Post them up into the Facebook group. I'd love to see them. So I hope you've enjoyed that. So just again, if you've not signed up yet to the 5-step blueprint to photography challenge, head over to dslr.guruchallenge.com and sign up there. It starts next Monday. It's going to be really good. 5 days with me, learning how to get off auto. And if you don't want to miss a show again, just type in this here, okay, this link here, and type follow, and you'll get a text message every time that I go live. I'll put this into the comments after. And also head over to dslr.guru, which is my main website. You can look at the camera settings section, which gives you settings for your camera in a huge amount of different genres of photography. So you literally pump in what lens you've got, what camera you've got, what genre you're photographing what the lighting condition is, and it will tell you all the different settings you need on your camera to take the picture. So go and have a look at that as well. It's really, really interesting. So thanks a lot all for joining, and I'll see you very soon. Take care and stay safe. Bye-bye.